Here is an example of a common victory that I hear about. Let's say that you see an arousing picture. Commonly, I hear about this being on like social media, Instagram Explore in particular, Facebook. This could be a movie that you're watching, right? And emotionally, you might feel like excited, maybe a little curious, and maybe your initial thought is like, wow, right? Wow, they're hot, or wow, they're attractive, or whatever. Again, this is just a reaction. But now we choose what we're going to think. We can do this whole I shouldn't think about people in a negative way. I shouldn't objectify people. I shouldn't. I have a personal vendetta against I shouldn't, because I think when we say I shouldn't, we're also saying I want to, right? I say I shouldn't with ice cream consistently, right? But really underneath that is this I want to. When we consistently avoid, eventually that typically goes to setback. A setback, again, is an objectification, right? And maybe this is like, oh, I want to see more, right? And it becomes mainly focused on the body and not the person. A victory is a humanizing thought, right? And maybe this victory would be something like intimacy is more than a picture. Intimacy is more than a body, right? And we're focused on connection and not just using someone. What we choose to think eventually shapes our reactions. This is how we beat pornography and the appeal of unhealthy sex, is by having victories consistently on prompts and triggers. There are two primary types of prompts or triggers. One is external. External prompts are things that we see or things that we hear, right? Common ones that people faced are media, actual like humans that we see. Media would include like music is a common area, right? I would say that most people are affected mainly by media prompts. The other type of prompts are internal prompts. Internal prompts are things that usually just come to our mind. A lot of the times this is a recall of things that we've seen in the past or ways we've been affected by different things in the past, right? So for example, if I saw a shocking image, then a lot of the times that's something that my brain would recall. Internal prompts are things that eventually can go away. As we consistently have victories over internal prompts, we can clean out what's in our brain, and then we won't have these things popping up in our head that are inaccuracies about sex. External prompts we will face forever. We can somewhat control what external prompts are in our homes, but really we're going to have to win against external prompts consistently. And as we consistently win, pretty soon they bounce off pretty easily. Our reaction to our prompts. Let's say that the prompt that we received was a attractive picture. Now, we typically react in two different ways, emotionally and mentally. And these really are a reflection of the way that we've chosen to think about sex in the past, right? And so this can kind of be a great measurement for like, what is my idea of what sex is and should be? If we react in this like feeling maybe fear that someone's going to catch us or something like that, or someone's going to know, right? And our first thought is kind of like, oh no, that's probably a reflection that we have avoided and kind of connected fear and something maybe even evil with physical intimacy. If we react right away with this like excitement and arousal, and it's like this like I want to see more, this is again a reflection of the way we've chosen to think about sex in the past. These reactions we're not really accountable for in the moment. We are going to choose what we're going to think after that. But they are a good measurement for how have I thought about sex in the past. A setback. So we're here, we get a prompt or a trigger by seeing an attractive picture. We feel excited, maybe a little curious, and this idea of, wow, I want to see more. Often this setback really kind of starts there. It doesn't really typically go immediately to imagining pornography, but it's this idea of more, right? Most often this is focused on just the body and on ourself and our own self-pleasure. It's not really connecting. It's about using this picture or using pornography or whatever to get our own kind of high out of it. Setbacks usually start with this, again, more, and then that more leads to a plan to actually end up using. Typically, this takes hours and sometimes even a day, and it's not something that's just immediate. It just happens in degrees. Setbacks eventually will lead to pornography use and will shift in a negative way our reactions, because they will reflect the way that we choose to think about sex. Avoidance. Let's just get to where we are in this example right now. We have an attractive picture, we feel excited or curious, and our first thought is, wow, I want to see more. I see very often people go to this, I shouldn't, as their attempt to try to overcome pornography. This I shouldn't is very fear motivated, right? Where we're afraid of something happening, and so that is what's motivating us to try to run away, right? I have a personal vendetta against I shouldn't. When we say I shouldn't, I think we're also saying I want to. It's like I want to, but I shouldn't, right? I want to see more, but I shouldn't. I want to see more, but I shouldn't. This avoidance, which typically leads to the action of distraction, is only a temporary fix and will not work long term. In fact, it can actually keep us from having healthy sexual intimacy later in our life because we've shut those feelings and thoughts away. Avoidance will always lead to setback, which eventually leads to use. What is a victory? Today we're going to focus actually on victories themselves. So just to get us caught up here, we've got this prompt or trigger of seeing an attractive picture. We feel excited or curious, and we think, wow, I want to see more. Now, with a victory, there's actually 3 different levels of victory. The third level is a desire statement, and almost always it uses this word want. These can be pretty simple, like I don't want to go down that path. I want to keep sex as a positive thing in my life. I don't want to use pornography. These kind of ideas. The second level is a recognition. It's almost like this comes through our filter of what our sexual values are. A lot of the times we use the word that or this in this recognition phase. For example, like that is not real intimacy, that is just about a body, that is not connection, that is not what I'm looking for, those kind of a thing. Number 1 is a value-based thinking, right? Sometimes to just help people get started, we start with this phrase, healthy intimacy is what? So healthy intimacy is about connection. Healthy intimacy involves the whole person. Healthy intimacy is consensual. When we have a victory, it doesn't just have to be one of these. In fact, quite naturally, we see individuals go from, sometimes even an avoidance from I shouldn't to I don't want to. That's not real intimacy. Healthy intimacy is about connection. As we consistently choose to think in this value-based way, these values will become ingrained in our reactions, which is really the long-term goal.